within the temple and hollowed the courts. They made also new holy vessels, and into the temple they brought the candlestick, 7 candlestick, and the altar of burnt offerings, and an incense, and a table, and the table. And upon the altar they burned incense, and the lamps that were upon the candlestick they lighted, that they might give light in the temple. Light in the temple, a building that we worship in. Well, furthermore, they set the loaves upon the table and spread out the veils and finished all the works which they had begun to make. Now on the 25th day of the 9th month, which is Christmas, the day that they call Christmas, the 25th day of the 12th month, which is called the month Caslu, in the 148th year, they rose up betimes in the morning and offered sacrifice according to the law upon the new altar of burnt offerings which they had made. Look at what time and what day the heathen had profaned it, even in that was it dedicated, with songs and citharns and harps and cymbals. That's the same day. When you look at that, they were killing the people, and they that day, that's the day that they had defiled it. When you go back to 1 Maccabees 1 and 59. Now the 25th day of the month, they did sacrifice upon the outer altar, which was upon the altar of the Most High, at which time, according to the commandment, they put to death certain women that had caused their children to be circumcised. And they hanged the infants about their necks, and rifled their houses, and slew them that had circumcised them. Albeit many of Israel were fully resolved and confirmed in themselves not to eat any unclean thing. Wherefore they chose rather to die, that they might not be defiled with meats, and that they might not profane the holy covenant. So then they died, and there was very great wrath upon Israel. That's what they did. The Most High raised up Maccabees to destroy them and to dedicate our temple back to us. First Maccabees 4:54 again. Look at what time and what day the heathen had profaned it, even in that was it dedicated with songs and citharns and harps and cymbals, to music and musical instruments playing, on the 25th day of the 9th month, which is the 12th month in our time, the 25th day. You know what that is. That's Christmas, the pagan day, Christmas. 55. Then all the people fell upon their faces, worshiping and praising the Most High power of heaven, who had given them good success. And so they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days, and offered burnt offerings with gladness, and sacrificed the sacrifice of deliverance and praise. They decked also the forefront of the temple, of the church, of the place of worship, with crowns of gold, and with shields. And the gates and the chambers they renewed, and hanged doors upon them. Now we have found shields in our studies and travels across Europe, Egypt, Syria, and Israel. Shields. These shields, 6-point shields, on these buildings. We have the footage of it to let us know that we were there. Thus was there very great gladness among the people, for that the reproach, the disgrace of the heathen was put away. Moreover, Judas and his brethren with the whole congregation of Israel ordained that the days of the dedication of the altar should be kept in their season from year to year, by the space of 8 days, from the 25th day of the month Caslu, with mirth and gladness. These are 8 days that we celebrate, not one day, but 8 days. We call it the Feast of Lights. They call it Hanukkah, Feast of the Dedication. At that time also they builded up the Mount Zion with high walls and strong towers round about. lest the Gentiles should come and tread it down, as they had done before. And they set their garrison to keep it, and fortify Resira to preserve it, that the people might have a defense against Idumea, against the Caucasian people. You look up Idumea, it means Edom, Rome. Oh yes. First Maccabees 5:1. Now when the nations round about heard that the altar was built, and the sanctuary renewed as before, it displeased them very much. See? Why? Because we can call on our power of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and go in there and worship and cry to the Most High, and boast about the Most High, and exalt the Most High, while Mashiach Yahushua, Ba'ashama Mashiach Yahushua, these nations hate that. It displeased them very much. Because remember, he said, when we do wrong, then the Most High is not with us. But coming back to him, his laws, statutes, commandments, the Most High is going to make us prosper. It says, wherefore they thought to destroy the generation of Jacob that was among them. And thereupon they began to slay and destroy the people. Then Judas fought against the children of Esau. Then Judas fought against the children of Esau. Then Judas fought against the children of Esau in Idumea at Arabetin, because they besieged Israel. And he gave them a great overthrow, and abated their courage, and took their spoils, robbed them of everything. This is to be remembered. This is our story. See, people don't know anything about that because you just know about their story. Look at look at what was ordained by the king Darius during the Persian and Median Empire. Mind you, they allowed us to build the temple. That was, and then the Edomites came into power, and they just defiled the temple. So-called Caucasian people came into power. The Greek Empire, they destroyed the temple. You know. First Ezra 4. And just 47 show you that who was talking about. Then Darius the king stood up and kissed him and wrote letters for him unto all the treasure. Because this guy, he won. They had a contest. They would say, what's the most powerful? Wine, the king, or the truth and women. Those three things. One man said wine, another man said the king, another one said women and the truth. The truth and women. The one that said truth and women, he won. We spent a lot of time talking about that woman. You can read it for yourself. I don't have time to read it right now, but you can read it for yourself. I'll get right to the point. It says, since this is King Darius, verse 49, moreover he wrote for all the Jews that went out of his realm up unto Jewry concerning their freedom, that no officer, no ruler, no lieutenant, no treasurer should forcibly enter into their doors, and that all, listen to this, and that all the country which they hold should be free without tribute, and that the Edomites, these so-called white people, should give over the villages of the Jews which then they held. Yeah, that there should be yearly given 20 talents to the building of the temple. Hear that? They had to pay monies, 20 talents of the building of the temple until the time that it was built. And other 10 talents yearly to maintain the burnt offerings upon the altar every day, as they had a commandment to offer 17. And that all they that went from Babylon to build the city should have free liberty, as well they as their posterity, and all the priests that went away. He wrote also concerning the charges and the priests' vestments wherein they minister, and likewise for the charges of the Levites to be given them until the day that the house were finished and Jerusalem builded up. And he commanded to give to all that kept the city pensions and wages. He sent away also all the vessels from Babylon that Cyrus had set apart, and all that Cyrus had given in commandment. The same charge he also to be done, and sent unto Jerusalem. Now when this young man was gone forth, he lifted up his face to heaven toward Jerusalem, and praised the King of heaven, the most high power of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and said, From thee cometh victory, and from thee cometh wisdom, and thine is the glory, and I am thy servant. Blessed art thou who hast given me wisdom, for to thee I give thanks, O most high power of our fathers, power of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And so he took the letters and went out and came unto Babylon and told it all his brethren. And they praised the most high power of their fathers, because he had given them freedom and liberty to go up and to build it Jerusalem and the temple, the building, which is called by his name. And they feasted with instruments of music and gladness 7 days. That's what we was able to do, people. So we did worship in buildings. I hope that was edifying. I hope that kind of clears up the fact that, and see those the buildings that we just looked at, and that was what when we went to, we started off with Mashiach Yahushai. That's what he was dealing with, Feast of Dedication. That's why I said it was winter. It was that time, on the 12th month, 25th day. But it's not concerning Esau's times. We honor that through the acknowledgement of the new moon, which starts the first day of the month. And see, it's John 10:22, and it was at Jerusalem, the feast of the dedication, and it was winter. See, it was winter during that time. It was a feast of dedication. What we just read with Judas Maccabees, where the Edomites had destroyed it, the temple, and they dedicated it back again. And he ordained that we as the Israelites would do this. And Mashiach Yahushua was honoring what it was that our people had ordained in getting the temple back. Just like you had 4th of July is being honored by them, saying they got their independence from England. We got our independence from these wicked nations, wicked Edomites that had defiled our temple. See, these are the things that we got to come back to. That's why I said we rehearse it. The righteous acts. It's our story. With that, shalom.